is your relationship with time? Are you wired and tired, stressed and overwhelmed, busy and going nowhere? Or just want to scale your business? Welcome to Take Back Time with your host, Penny Zenker. Penny focuses on books, strategies, tools, and tips to help you work smarter and approach your time more strategically. As a result, you can have more energy, focus, and get more done in less time. Be more efficient and effective. Get ready to take back time.
Hello, and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zenker, and I'm your host. And on this show, I search for the smartest, the most interesting, the best people who are going to help to support you to take back time. That means to think and act more strategically. So today, I'm excited to have Anna Kelley. She's a dear friend of mine and also made a lot of major changes lately that I would love for you guys to hear about. She's a founding partner of the Zenith Capital Group, Apex Multifamily, and Rymom LLC. She's a former top-ranked financial relationship manager for a private bank and began investing in real estate 20 years ago. So Anna has purchased, renovated, and rented millions of dollars in real estate across numerous asset classes while working full-time. So you guys can understand that she's balancing, and she's got a lot of good time management tips for you. She's also raising 4 children at the same time, right? Running around with travel teams and stuff like that. So if you want to learn something about productivity, you ask somebody like this who's juggling all these different activities. She's recently retired from her corporate career, so she made the plunge to go away from that full-time income into her real estate. And so after creating financial freedom through her rental property investment. So it's that move into real estate, and then she was able to move in full-time. She has active ownership in and manages a rental portfolio valued over $60 million and has invested in over 2,000 doors as a limited partner. She actively seeks out the best multifamily investment opportunities for her partners and investors, and she is sought after speaker and enjoys helping others to overcome fears, increasing knowledge, and minimize risk in real estate. And she's also an Amazon #1 bestseller. So welcome, Anna.
Thanks so much, Penny. I'm so thankful to be here, and thank you for that very gracious and kind introduction.
Well, you've been kicking it, girl. I mean, that's what happens, right? So all of a sudden you look back and you go, wow, look at all the things I've done.
Yes, I kind of pinch myself and say, wow, the hard work is actually finally paid off.
So there's a lot of people who might be new entrepreneurs, might be have been a long-time entrepreneur, and are kind of struggling with the situation. We're in lockdown right now. Everybody's at home. For some people that shut down their business, I just wanted to ask you where you are, because you recently made that move from the full-time salary to, being full-time entrepreneur. How is this impacting you in terms of your mindset, right? Because that's a major part of it, and also in terms of how you're setting yourself up for success.
Sure. So in terms of just the mindset, Penny, I went through 2008 and 2009 and the Great Recession that we had. And at the time I worked for AIG, so one of the largest corporations in the country and really in the world. And AIG ended up almost going under. They had a multi-billion-dollar bailout by the U.S. government, and I was losing my job. So in the span of a week, not unlike what many people are experiencing today, right, my 401k was decimated. I thought I was losing my job. I found out I was pregnant with my 3rd child the same week, and my life was falling apart. And, at the time I had a pity party. I cried for days, and I had to finally pull myself up and say, these things are completely beyond my control, but I still have something I can contribute and certain things I can control, and choose to move forward the best I could, one day at a time, taking action steps to try to get myself out of it and to prepare myself if things got worse. And so my biggest thing at the time was losing a job.
I want to stop you there for a minute, because there's a lot of people who are in that particular situation right now. They might have just lost their job, and they,
yes,
they might be really, down on themselves, down on everything. And so You said something that was really important, and I say that too. And that's the thing that kind of gives me inner peace is I can only focus on what I can control. And if I can't control it, there's no point in worrying about it because that stress just makes you less resourceful to do anything that you can control.
Right.
How did you come to that? How did you pull yourself out? Was it just reminding yourself that, or was there something that helped that to trigger for you?
Yeah, I think for me personally, my faith is really a strong part of my life, Penny. And there's a proverb that says something to the extent of, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has enough problems of its own. We have enough issues to deal with today. And I realized there's another one that says, don't be anxious about anything. You pray and you move forward. And so I had to realize that anxiety, as much as there is some biochemistry, and I'm not minimizing that, but we have a choice of whether we stay in a state of anxiety. We have a choice to say, I'm having these feelings. These are real situations that are happening that are causing me to worry. They're causing me to fear. They're causing me to be sad and distraught over what I've lost. But I also have a mind that can tell me that my emotions can't see everything in the future. My emotions can't see the hopeful things and the things that I can do today to get myself out of the situation. So I knew if I let my emotions overtake me completely and make me cry in my bed for days, which I did for a while, and it's okay to cry and feel and to release and get those things out. But you have to be able to say, I am a full-bodied creature, mind, soul, spirit, emotions. And I can tell myself truth that is counteracting the fears of the emotions that I'm having. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, for me, when I lost my job, AIG is not the only employer in this country. Yes, I was insurance, and yes, I had a very specific job that was hard to duplicate, but I had to tell myself, I have many skills that are marketable that I can pivot and use those skills to find something else to do to bring myself income if I lose my job. So number one, I hadn't lost my job that day, but even if I had to say and create an inventory for myself. And I wrote down on paper, what can I control today that can bring me additional income and that can help me take one step today to get myself in a better financial position. And I took notes and I told myself, I am productive. We talk about productivity. I have financial acumen. I can run projects. There's all kinds of things that you can do today, and remind yourself of who you are and what you can do. And then who out in this economy today needs what you have to give. And I took one day at a time to just pull myself out, remind myself truth, feel but don't wallow in the feelings, and get up and then take an action to move you forward. And that's all you really can do, Penny.
So I just want to highlight, because that's a great exercise that people could do right now, right? Is to take a sheet of paper and to put it into 3 columns. One of those columns is what you can control. Like you said, what you can identify what you have, that do an inventory of the skills and the knowledge and the experience and the connections, right? And just all of those things that you can control and you can recognize that you have in your life and that you can be grateful for.
Right.
And then in the middle, you put things that you can influence. You don't have control over it, but you can influence them.
Yeah.
And then you have things that are out of your control. And I do believe that when you create an inventory like that, it makes a huge difference, because you realize, like, put a little, what I like to do, I love percentages, because it just tells you something. So put a little percentage under each column as to where you're currently spending the majority of your energy and your thought, and then decide where you want to. And clearly you want to zero by the things that you can't control.
Absolutely. And the other, I would add a 4th column to that, Penny, because that really talks about a financial inventory. Because a lot of times some people are very, have a strong financial acumen. They have a budget. They know exactly what their personal financial statement is and what all their income is and the sources of money they can tap or credit. And some people don't. They just kind of fly by the seat of their pants with their finances. And so when you lose a job, you're forced to say, okay, I have a certain lifestyle. The money has been cut off. You have to be able to ask yourself, what assets or cash or other retirement accounts do I have that I can do something with what are my expenses, and things you can control are cutting out expenses that you don't need and looking at where you have resources, whether it's your own money or credit resources or retirement, and then saying, how else can I optimize those resources today to cover the cash flow needs that I have to cut my expenses? And so for me, without getting into a lot of detail, I had a 401k. And I knew I could borrow from my 401k. So I didn't want to liquefy it and take my losses in the market that had, tanked, but I could borrow from it. So I borrowed from my 401k, Penny, and I bought a 4-unit apartment building that would bring me in about $1,600 per month. Right. So I had a low rate policy I didn't have to pay back, and I created extra income. So for you, it may not be real estate, but you can say, can I access those funds to get me through? And just having the weight off of your needs being met, your housing needs and your food needs primarily, allows you a little bit of peace to be able to say, okay, now I don't have to worry with anxiety every day. What am I going to eat? How am I going to pay my mortgage? Whatnot. Yeah. But now I can have the freedom that part's covered, and I can take some time to think through all the rest of the decisions I need to make in order to get back on track.
Another tip on that I just really found out today, that credit card companies, everybody appreciates that this is extenuating circumstances. Yeah. So yes. Credit card companies are giving you 1 to 2 months where you don't have to pay back. There'll be no penalty and no fee. And all you need to do is say that you've been impacted by the quarantine and that you don't have income coming in, and they will note it on your file and you can get that extension. So that maybe goes in that influence column is, yes. My mom always taught me, if you don't ask, you don't get, right? And
absolutely.
So you can always ask. They can always say no, but you can yes. always ask, is there anything that you can do for me to help me out? So go to people that you're working with in those contexts and see what your bank can do, see what your credit card companies can do. Like you absolutely. Said, access, what options you have with your 401k or with any of the other investments that you have, because this is a chance for us to think creatively, and we're already sort of out of our box, so to speak. So it gives us the opening to be able to think differently and ask different questions, and who knows what other things that we can put into place.
Absolutely.
Like you just said, that would actually be a long-term huge benefit.
Absolutely. And today, because this crisis is unlike any other we've ever experienced, the government is doing things that can help you to weather the storm. So, like you said, with your mortgage company, right now, if you have a federally backed mortgage, you can defer your payments for up to a year. The key is you've got to call them. You have to call and say, I've been affected by COVID-19. I've lost my job. I need to seek a forbearance for the next 12 months. And, they can't report it to your credit report. It's something that the government is mandating. So, if you need that, take advantage of that. But just make sure that you don't just quit paying things, but that you're proactive, that you call. And another thing that's supposed to be coming out today, assuming the House approves what the Senate just did, is unprecedented ability to withdraw money from your 401k if you absolutely need it, without paying the 10% penalty if you're below 59 and a half. And I'm not giving you financial advice or telling you that's the wise thing to do, but it's an option available to you today that never has been, that you should talk to your advisors about. So it's just important, Penny, to realize what options are out there, do the research, take some of that time that you'd be crying in your bed and get on and research, what are my options? And seek some advice from people that can help you ask the right questions and get through this difficult time.
Yeah, that's great, right? And there's all these different things that we just might not know about. And right. So, do you know of any resources or one place that you can go to find out where some of these relief options are?
I don't right now, Penny. I'm just staying connected. CNBC puts out a lot of information. They're the ones that put out the thing about the 401k right away. They're on top of what's happening in the markets and mortgages. You might type in, just Google COVID-19 federal relief programs, because there are some other programs. In fact, because a lot of your listeners are entrepreneurs, I'll throw this out there too. There is a program that's supposed to be passed again today that allows small business owners $50,000 loans and up to $10 million loans, 0% interest through this SBA 7A lending program that the government is going to streamline because of COVID-19. And it will allow you to take a loan if you have any employees if you've already laid them off, you can hire them back. And if you haven't laid them off, if you promise to keep them employed, then the government will end up forgiving that loan. So it's free money to keep your business afloat. So I would stay on top of that. Go to Google, look at the news as soon as this bill passes, and call the Small Business Association, look on their website for the 7A loan. And that's something that can help a lot of entrepreneurs that have any employees to keep their businesses afloat. And if you don't have employees, you can still apply for 7A loans because you're affected by COVID-19. So you just have to kind of stay on top of the news and see what options are out there. But those are things that are coming out daily right now that can help a lot of people who are impacted by this virus.
So, what just came to my mind. So sometimes when you want to stay on top of certain topics, you can create a Google alert. So that might be something people can do, is put up a Google alert so that it sends you an email with all the related articles that come on that. So there's something that we can all do to be able to stay better informed. And
exactly.
One more thing to put out for the listeners is I just found this great tool, which is a digital organization tool, and it's called PlatStack. So what that allows, and it does allow sharing. I'm not sure, it's in beta right now, so I'm not sure if that piece of it has been released, but you can set up all your digital links. So let's say you set a Google alert and you pull those in, and then you pull those into PlatStack, and you can also categorize them. And what it allows you to do is with one click of a button, it'll open all of those links at the same time. So if you just want to collect them for another time when you're going to do the research or act upon them, you can collect them there, and then it'll open them, all of those tabs at the same time. So
That's great.
Super cool tool. Like you might use that in real estate for researching different properties, and
sure,
it's a really cool digital organization tool that may support people at this time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. One more thing I thought about, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about time blocking, but schedule something on your calendar when you're down in this time to say, I'm going to spend an hour today researching ways that I can monopolize on these different programs that are available to me today. So research, and how you can utilize programs for free money. Research how you can hold off on expenses. Spend some time cutting your expenses and figuring out what you could let go that's not absolutely necessary. So if you time block chunks on your calendar, it just helps you to keep moving forward and keep reminding yourself that, okay, whatever the problems are of today that I'm dealing with in my business, in my family, either through this trial or any other times, I need to spend some quiet time really just moving forward one piece at a time. Even if you can only get a couple actions done a day, block your calendar and make yourself sit down and do it.
It's so helpful for people who aren't using time blocking, and we can use this to jump into that. I know for myself, the same thing, right? There's extra things that I've got to get done and options to look at and things like that if you can just do one or two things a day, it makes you feel better, that at least you're moving forward with it. So there's a real recognition of progress as to not putting things off, but to chunk them out, like you said, with that time blocking. So that's probably a resource or a strategy that you've used in the past. Is that correct?
I have, Penny, but I really didn't get really, really good at it until recently. And, there's always things you can tweak.
So you had to.
It's kind of interesting. When I worked at AIG and I had a full-time job, my day at work was extremely time blocked because we had meetings all day, every day with project management and different projects. And so it forced me to be very, very productive at work. But when it came to my personal life, I didn't have really anything on the calendar. It's like, okay, here's my evening. I've got 4 kids. They're all in school. They're all in sports. And I just have to borrow time every moment that I could get to focus on anything else that I needed to do personally. And that was either first thing in the morning or lunch breaks or evenings after they went to bed. And I worked 70 to 80 hours a week, literally for 12 years, trying to get everything done that I needed to between my job, my husband's business that I was helping get off the ground, the real estate, and the kids. And so my work life was very structured thanks to calendars and blocking off my time, but my personal life was not. And so it wasn't until I retired and I realized there's so many opportunities and things I want to be involved in But I was very, very committed to the moment my kids came in the door, I'm wife and mom, and I'm not working on anything else that I need to do. So I found myself quickly, as I think many entrepreneurs probably do, when you're totally free and your time is your own, you think you can handle a lot more things than you can. Unless you're just a slackard who some people might fall in the extreme of, I've got all this time and I can't get myself to do anything and be productive. I was on that other extreme. Like I'm still taking on too much. Yeah. And because I am, my time is quickly getting away from me and I'm not spending strategic time on the things important to me personally, Absolutely. Like going to the gym and cooking healthy and having my quiet time in the mornings, doing something to grow spiritually, doing something to grow financially, date nights with husbands and friends, those kind of things. I just made them fit whenever I had time. And I found that I never had time. So
you weren't as intentional about those things. It just happened naturally at work, but you weren't really as intentional about your personal goals and desires. And so they fell by the wayside.
Right. And I might be for a time, like let's say I'm really focused on my diet and I'm intermittent fasting. Well, my calendar is telling me this is when you can eat, this is when you have to cook or whatever. But then all the other things, I just couldn't figure out how to stay productive in all the things that were important to me all at the same time. So I tended to be unbalanced. I was all in 2 or 3 things. Everything else fell by the wayside. So what I did, Penny, about maybe 6 months ago, is I said, okay, I recognize that I'm still taking on too much. And I recognize that I'm still not getting enough sleep because I'm taking on too much. So I need to figure out, number one, what are my real priorities in life? What are my core values in life? Mm-hmm. And then I ask myself, who do I want to become in the next year? In terms of as a wife, as a mother, individually in my spiritual growth, and in my investing and with my investors. Who do I want to become outside if money wasn't an issue? And then what tasks do I absolutely have to do at least once a week, but maybe 3 times a week or every day, mm-hmm. to grow in those areas that I say are important to me?
Right.
And I quickly created an inventory of these are the things I'd like to accomplish in the next year. And I started putting them on my calendar to start out with. And I said, okay, now I have a chunk of time dedicated to everything important to me that has nothing to do with my job or with my real estate. Other than, let's say, I've got 500 apartment units. I have to be asset managing them. I have to look at their financials. So I put in the things that are absolutely mandatory to sustain what I had in chunks of time on my calendar for the week. And then I fit in time at the gym, time reading my Bible, time with my children at the dinner table, time with my husband actually talking to him. Like I started putting those things on my calendar.
Yeah.
And I realized I have no more time left and not enough time for all the things on my plate. Right. So I had to ask myself, what do I have to give? I either give up more time and spend less time on certain things, but still some time to grow, or I take it off my plate completely. And it really helped me to reprioritize and redesign my life to say, these are the things that I have time for without creating stress and without filling every single moment of my calendar from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Right.
I wanted to make sure I had some time on my calendar each day for the free things that we sporadically just might want to do.
You have to create some flexibility. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just increasing the stress, right?
Exactly.
Like to have to do everything instead of being flexible.
Exactly. Yeah. And you have to have time for fires because every day has its own fires and challenges. I used to have these great to-do lists and these great lists of things I wanted to accomplish, but I just each day sat down and said, okay, today these are the urgents, so I've got to do urgents first. Here's importance, I've got to do importance next. And all the other nice to do as time permits that were on my calendar never got done. So I was really good at the urgent and the important, that business-wise and even family-wise, but all of the other nice things that were great ideas and desires that I had for my life and my family and my job rarely got done consistently. So by going through the process of putting everything on my calendar, it's a real eye opener to say, whoa, I still have way too much on my plate and I've got to start backing off and reprioritizing.
I think it helps you when you do that, because I've done that for a number of people. We went through that exercise to just write everything down, put it on your calendar, and then see that it's unrealistic. So it helps you to give you permission to decommit to things, to say, and not now doesn't mean that you're never going to do it. It just means not now, and take it off your plate.
Right.
And it really gets you clear on what's really a priority and what is not. And
right.
But it's so important to relieve that stress of not having to feel like you have to do it all when you take that off and take it away.
Right. And the other thing that I started realizing is it forced me to say, how much time do I really spend on each of these items, each of these categories that I need to grow in, and how much time do I really need to spend on it? So maybe I was telling myself I have to work out 1 hour every single day, 5 days a week. And if I didn't do that, I felt guilty because I had to move it off my calendar to put something in its place.
Right.
So I had to start saying, can I grow in my health by working out 3 days a week and cooking a healthy meal 3 days a week? Yes, I can grow. So instead of seeking perfection in everything, like I'm going to lose 50 pounds, so I must spend an hour a day meal prepping and an hour a day at the gym and an hour a day shopping. Well, suddenly 3 hours of my day is overwhelmed because I have this number goal that really doesn't mean anything. So I started reframing my thoughts toward, I need to grow in these areas. I don't have to reach perfection. Some areas I might not reach a particular number goal or number on the scale or whatever. Some people in real estate, okay, I want 100 more units this year. Well, why? What's the magic thing about 100? If I'm going to kill myself and work 90 hours, 80 hours a week to reach 100, but it's not going to bring substantial joy, why do I have that lofty goal? So now I pattern my life that these are the areas that I want to grow. How much time a week do I need to spend to have some substantial growth in that area that I can be happy with and still have a work-life balance with my time? And so now I just chunk times for growth. So for example, I might have an hour on my day that says I'm going to grow by buying additional assets. So I have an hour a day that I'm looking at deals, but I no longer have the pressure that I have to find this many units. It's just, I need to do something for an hour that I am completely dedicated and focused, that nothing else I do or think about is happening other than I am taking actions to tick off whatever's on my to-do list and whatever opportunities are there that are going to help me to move forward in finding another deal. So my time blocking is now for growth in an area rather than I must call this person today at this time. This is my hour that I can make networking calls. And so in that hour, I say, okay, who in my network do I need to talk to today? Who in my network is going to help me move forward or I can help move forward? And that hour is where I will put them that week. And if I can't fit them in that hour that week, then I have to schedule them for another week. Or I have to say, what do I have to give up if I now put them in a spot that I had dedicated to something else? And it makes you strategically think about, if I put somebody here and this is what I was supposed to do, where else can I do it? And what priorities can I drop? And it's just helped me completely to have peace in my scheduling.
Yeah, I want to stop there and just mention something about that. And then we're probably going to have to wrap this up. This is longer than most of my interviews, but we have so much to talk about, right? And I do want to get the COVID piece out right away for people who are currently in that situation. But you talked about blocking a category for growth. So you and I think a lot alike. We think, that's why I say it's about thinking and acting more strategically. That's how we set the right priorities that are going to get us results. And that's how I tell people to time block too, is I tell them to block categories.
Yes.
So if you're going to plan your week or you're going to plan your month, you're going to plan your categories of work, of play, of those things that you want to accomplish. And then when you get to that day, you can identify what's the most strategic thing that I can do today to move that goal forward. So I just want to point that out for people. I love what you're saying. And I have a whole course on that to teach people how to think that way, right? Because it is a different way to think than just scheduling what's on your to-do list. It gets you Yeah, not as focused, like you said, on the to do, because it might end up not being the most productive thing to do or the highest priority. So
Yes. And that's something that you actually, I heard you talk about. I don't remember if it was us one-on-one or I heard you speak about that, but thinking strategically about that time. And I didn't always. Sometimes it was like, oh, I got to do this. But when you think strategically about what you need to do in that section of time, it allows you to say, to ask the right questions before you even sit down with that session and say, okay, I have an hour now that I can move forward and grow in this area. What are the things that I have to do? But what is the best use of my time for this hour? What use of my time for this hour is going to move the needle the furthest, rather than just ticking off another thing that I can say that I accomplished? So it just makes you say, not only is this time dedicated to this, but then at the start of each section of time, sit down and ask yourself, what is the value of my time? What can I do today to move myself forward for the maximum amount of growth? And the other little things I have to do, let's put those things off until the next time that I have dedicated to work on this particular issue.
Right. So we're in total alignment in that, and I'm super excited that you shared that here, because I say it in a different way. And I think the more times that people can hear that about the way that they're looking at their time and how they're sitting down to plan it, that's the key, right? That's at the end of the day, that's what enables you to reach those goals. Now, I am a big fan of setting big goals. So that's where we might differ. I believe that setting big goals, I just want to explain why, that setting big goals doesn't have to, I also believe in set it and forget it. So that it can't be like this stressful focus. But I believe when we set big goals, it makes us get outside of our regular way of thinking. And it might be that you can't continue doing things the way that you're doing them today to reach those goals. And if you try, then you stress yourself out. And like you said, then you don't have that balance and everything. But what if you decided to take a look at everything and see, well, I can reach that, but I have to do things differently. And this is how I would go about doing it. And I believe it just stretches us outside of our comfort zone to think differently. And a lot of times to reach big goals, that's what it takes, is to step into the thinking of maybe somebody else or your future self.
Sure. And I do agree with that. I want to just clarify too, I've done in the corporate world in business management consulting and in project management, I've gone through like every goal setting course in the world and walked companies through it. So I do understand the power of setting big goals. I think where those types of programs stop short is when you're looking at setting big, let's say the bad goals, big hairy ass goals. So, you've got those goals, but if you have one of those that stretches your time and your resources so much, and then you've got one for family and for health and then for business and then for everything else, at some point you have to realize, if I'm stretching myself so thin by shooting for the moon in every single thing that I have to do, you can't. Maybe in one category you do great, but in the others, something's going to give because you only have so much time in a day. So yes, set big goals and strategically make sure that when you're working on those goals, you're putting in maximum effort, strategic effort, you're maximizing that time, but also be realistic with yourself that sometimes when we set these big goals, we set a number goal that we think is in alignment with what's really important to us. But if we step back and say, at what cost, you have to ask yourself, number one, how can I do it? But at what cost am I willing to sacrifice other things so that I can utilize all of my brain power and my time in achieving this goal? And the reality is, I don't think many of us sit back and say, have I counted the cost personally, relationally, and with my own stress level of pushing so hard at so many different things so that I can feel like I'm accomplishing great things in every area of my life? And I think most of us would say, us high achievers would say, we're stressed out, or things personally may not be going well, even though your business goals are absolutely on fire. So I've just started to, when I say to have goals toward growth, what I've said to myself is, I know I can achieve, and I am a high achiever. And I know I think strategically, and I know that I know how to maximize my time, but I'm still taking on too much. And so I'm just now reevaluating goal setting to say, before I set a goal, I have to be able to say, can I count the cost and what do I have to give up in order to put all my resources to achieving it? And so it just allows me to have a little more balance and a little more perspective of, is this goal as important to me as I think it is? Right. And what am I willing to give up to get it? And so I think if I can't be a jack of all trades and a master at all of them and excel in all of them, for me, how can I have one or two areas that I've said are the most important to me in my life and who I want to become this year, give it all I've got, but still leave time for growth in all those other areas where I just need some forward movement, where I don't have to be like Superwoman at all of them, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, I think in any context, if you're going to set these big, hairy, audacious goals across every area of your life, that's unrealistic and unsustainable. So usually it's one area, but like you said, at what cost? You can dial it down or just make sure that you're making it fit in with the other things that are important to you.
Right.
Ending up that you're having a heart attack because
right.
You're not taking care of yourself, or that you're divorced because you didn't spend any time with your family. So it sounds to me like that reevaluation for you, and hopefully for those people who are listening, because this is a great time to reevaluate your goals and what's important and why it's important, is to really understand what it is that you want and why you want it, and then into a very purposeful, intentional plan that's realistic.
Exactly.
So that's why my definition for SMART goals is there's a cost element in there. So it's definitely being specific, because we need to know specifically what we want to reach, but then and measurable. But then I have accountable, because we need to also make sure, like scheduling is making yourself accountable for something, right? And different ways to make yourself accountable. And then for me, R is the risk. It's what's the cost? Evaluating that whole thing. Do you really want it?
Right.
And then the T is also time driven, but I change some of those letters in there to do that. And I also add the I at the end, SMART-T, so that it's about why is it important, right?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
To really get connected. And that's in alignment with what you're talking
Absolutely.
about.
Yeah.
So we're talking and so to close out, are there any tools that you use specifically that support you in the area of time blocking that people might be able to take advantage of?
Really, I've tried to simplify. So when we talk about all these different things, I have so many apps and so much technology and so much tools. I'm like, for the stuff that I've got to look at constantly all day long, really Google Calendar is what I use. I'm an Android user. I'm not sure if you can use the same with iPhone or just an iCalendar, but I use my Google Calendar, and I just go in and I color code my time blocking. So I know if it's red, I have to be somewhere. I know if it's green, my kid has to be somewhere, Okay. So there's certain color coding that helps it kind of jump out at me, that even if I'm just looking at a glance, I can say, oh, I've got to be somewhere this afternoon. I better jump off or something. So Google Calendar, I use Excel a lot. I have all of my goals for the year and the things I want to accomplish. And basically, when I'm sitting down and looking at my Google Calendar, I'm referencing and opening up my Excel worksheet, which has my whole life on it, that says, okay, these were the goals that I had for myself for this week and this month and this quarter and this year to grow in these areas. So it helps me to visualize, along with my calendar, what I need to be focusing on. So those are my two primary tools that I use every single day, all of the time.
Awesome. So everybody know that you don't need a lot of tools to manage the things that you're doing. They're the main tools, the calendar, the email, the Excels, they're all available pretty much on the basic package of your computer. So you don't need to go overboard. I'm also have lots of different apps, but I really only use a couple of them all the time.
Yeah. And I really like Evernote or some similar note tool, because the other thing that used to kind of frustrate me and take a lot of time is I'd write notes in tons of different notebooks and notepads, and then I couldn't find them. So by having everything on your phone in a note, you have a thought that, oh, I need to do this. put it on your Evernote or add it to your calendar to pop up and remind you tonight that you've got to do this. So I used to remember everything. And so I didn't write a lot down, or I wrote it down and lost it, which created some lost productivity or stress. I didn't show up for an appointment somewhere. And so just really making sure that you write everything down in a place that it's going to stare at you every single day will help you to not forget the things that are important.
Yeah. And with the use of audio now, right, where you can hit a button and just say it and it'll automatically go to your Evernote. You just hit the microphone button. And if you've got Alexa at home, right, you can do integration by telling Siri or Alexa. So no excuses, right? It's really easy to get it out of your head.
Right.
So thank you so much for sharing so much of your experience, your knowledge, your story. It's very inspiring and also really educational for people who are not sure what's coming next. I believe that this interview and your story will really help them.
Thank you so much. It's my honor and my privilege to be able to help other people and just keep doing what you're doing. I love the productivity hacks because really I've learned if we don't do something to take control of our time and our money, our time and our money will take control of us. And so, that's something that I've learned through being an entrepreneur, through working in a company. We've absolutely got to take back control of the things we can, and that's our time and our money.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. And, thank you all for being here. I know this was a little bit longer than the regular interviews that I do, but worth every second. If you didn't catch the first part and came into the second or vice versa, go back and listen through it again. There's a lot of valuable tips here. And I'll also include the worksheet that we talked about and a couple of things for you all who are listening as a resource. So you're listening to Take Back Time, and my name is Penny Zanker, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening. Today's topic is another opportunity for you to put the knowledge you learned into practice. Tune in again next week for more strategies that will help you have more energy and focus to get more done in less time, so you can continue to take back time.